Hi friends, welcome to IIBS IAS Academy YouTube channel. I am Ashok, Assistant Professor at IIBS IAS Academy, and I have been training from UPSC aspirants since the past 4 years. In this YouTube channel, we will be covering all the issues important for UPSC Civil Services Examination and also for the state public service examinations. Please do like, share, comment and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome to IIBS IAS Academy. Today we are going to understand the newspaper analysis of 27th October 2020. And the first news we are going to study here is the Centre promises law to check stubble burning and Supreme Court withholds order on committee head. Since the past few years we have been seeing that Delhi is getting polluted very much, and the state government is taking many measures to combat the pollution over there. But the pollution which is based on Delhi is not because of Delhi, it is because the most of the pollution in Delhi is because of the stubble burning which is happening in Haryana. And because the winds are moving from the Haryana to Delhi, it is bringing the pollutants, the particulate matters towards the Delhi, and it is polluting the air of Delhi. And as we already know, the air, having the healthy environment is the fundamental right protected under Article 21 of Constitution of India. So for this, the Supreme Court has actually framed many regulations and it is asking the government to take precautionary measures to combat the pollution. So now the centre has promised a law to check the stubble burning happening in Haryana, and the Supreme Court has actually asked to check how the stubble burning is affecting and what are the methods to combat the stubble burning. For that, it has withheld the order to appoint a committee head. And next one, hopes raised for Oxford vaccine. Hopes raised for Oxford vaccine. And since the start of this pandemic, so we are trying to develop a vaccine to prevent the infections. And Oxford vaccine is showing very promising results that it is evoking the immune response even in the younger and also the elderly patients. So because of this, the hopes for the Oxford vaccine has actually raised. And when we are talking about the vaccines are the ones which evoke the immune response, so that when the actual virus or the bacteria enters into the body, our immune system will be ready to fight that infection. The next one, India to sign Geospatial cooperation deal with USA. This is very important. This is the result of 2+2 dialogue. This is the result of the 2+2 dialogue. So when you are talking about the 2+2 dialogue, it is the bilateral relationship we have with the USA. So the foreign minister and the defense minister of USA and the foreign minister and the defense minister of India, it is an interministerial dialogue, will be coming together and they will be having a dialogue and few agreements will be made. And in the last time when the 2+2 dialogue has happened between the India and America, the Comcast agreement was actually signed. And Comcast is one of the 4 fundamental agreements, and the other agreement, the last of the 4 fundamental agreements which will enhance the security and cooperation between the India and America is BECA. The BECA is the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Cooperation. The Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Cooperation. And with this agreement, the India and the America will be sharing strategic information or the geospatial information with the India to combat the terrorism or the counter-insurgency and all, right? So this is about the cooperation deal with US. BECA signing at 2+2 dialogue today, okay? Since we are talking about the Delhi pollution, the anti-traffic pollution drive launched in Delhi. Anti-traffic pollution drive has been launched in Delhi. So what is this anti-traffic pollution? During the traffic, when the red lights are on, so the vehicles do not stop in that particular time. So whatever the pollutants that are released during the time is contributing to about 15 to 20% per vehicle, right? Because of which, so anti-pollution drive has been launched in Delhi with a code, red lights on, gadi off. Red lights on, gadi off. So near the signal, when the red light is on, you have to stop the vehicle. So in that way, it will help in two different ways. One, the pollution will be reduced and also the fuel will not be consumed more, right? The fuel efficiency will actually increase. Because the fuels are non-renewable energy sources, we have to protect them for the sustainability. So that is anti-pollution, anti-traffic pollution drive launched in Delhi. Next important area, the editorial. In the editorial, for a mains perspective, this is very important. The shade of grey. The Pakistan has little option but to complete its FATA mandate task in the next 4 months. What is Financial Action Task Force? Right, Financial Action Task Force was actually created by G7 nations, the developed nations of the world, right? So G7 nations we call them. So Financial Action Task Force was actually created in 1989 to combat money laundering, But in 2001, it was extended to curb terror financing, And FATA has put Pakistan under the grey list, and it has been the third time that the inclusion of Pakistan into the grey list has actually continued in this year. So there were about 27 mandated action points for the Pakistan, and it has fulfilled 21 of them, and it was initially given a confidence that it will be removed from the grey list. But even though the 27 mandated action points were not mandated by the Pakistan with the end, by the end of the tenure, but still in 2019 it was actually supposed to finish off its 27 mandated action points, but it did not finish off. Instead of putting that into the blacklist, so it has continued to put pressure on the Pakistan, and it has put in the grey list. The Pakistan will now, what will happen if the Pakistan was actually put in the grey list? The Pakistan will now face the international strictures on its market and also its ability to procure loans until the next FATA penalty in February 2021. So by plenary in February 2021. By February 2021, it has to finish all the 6 pending mandated action points. If it doesn't finish those action points, the trade sanctions will be imposed on it, and also the loans will not be available from the developed nations. Right? It is a multi-governmental organization. So what it has to do in the next 4 months? What Pakistan has to fulfill in the next 4 months? The more action against the United Nations Security Council banned terrorists. Recently, Masood Azhar was recognized as an international terrorist by the United Nations Security Council. It was a diplomatic win to India, right? Because he was heading Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Hizbul Mujahideen, which is a terrorist organization based in Pakistan. And action against charitable organization, non-profit organization linked to the banned entities, linked to the terroristic organizations, and tracing fugitive terrorists and pursuing convictions against them. So there are many terrorists. The Pakistan has become a safe haven for all the terrorist organizations and the terrorists. They are taking asylum in the Pakistan. So the Pakistan has to identify the terrorists and take action against them. And revising the list of banned entities under the Anti-Terrorism Act to reflect all those banned by the United Nations Security Council. So whatever the organizations that were banned by the terroristic organization which were banned by the United Nations Security Council, the Pakistan has to expand its banned organization list to them as well. It has to include all the list along with the list it has. And cracking down and other channels of the terrorist financing through narcotics and smuggling. So it has to stop the terror financing through the different channels of narcotics and smuggling in Pakistan. So these are the actions that Pakistan has to take by February 2021, so that it won't be continued in the grey list or will be pushed down to the blacklist. See here, to begin with, the fact that the FATA has retained the Pakistan on the grey list for the 3rd time this year and not automatically downgraded to the blacklist, where its deadline has ended in September 2019, right? But still it is continued to be in the grey list. We did not downgrade it into the blacklist, and ensure the pressure has continued to make the Pakistan accountable for terror. And how does it help India? This is the other important point which we have to focus. The India's eventual goal is not just to stop attacks by the terror groups, but for Pakistan to fully dismantle the infrastructure, right? Because there are many terroristic organizations which are based in Pakistan. We are calling it state-sponsored terrorism, right? And the Pakistan is funding the terroristic organization to destabilize the government of India. So it is not just about the stopping the attacks from the Pakistan, but the Pakistan has to completely dismantle the infrastructure present in the Pakistan of terror, in the understanding that it is the Pakistan's own interest to do so, right? The Pakistan has to mandate that it is its own interest to dismantle the entire infrastructure, terror infrastructure based in the Pakistan. It is hoped that the prolonged FATA process will enable this realization in the Islamabad. So it will fulfill the India's hope. Contesting neighbors, revise geopolitical playbooks, right? So contesting neighbors, revise geopolitical playbooks. So this is about the international relations and relationship between the India and China with respect to the other nations. So when we talk about the India and China, so the very first war which we have fought with the China was in 1962, and after 1962 there was no much clashes between India and China other than that in Chola and Nathula Pass, right, in 1967. And also in 2015 there was the Doklam issue which was in the Bhutan. And after that, now the relationship between the India and China has actually went to the new low with this Galwan issue in the Ladakh. With the Galwan issue in the Ladakh, when the soldiers have died on the both the sides, towards the Indian side and also the Chinese soldiers have also been dead. So when we are trying to understand between the India and the China relationship with respect to the West Asia, so the article is shedding some light on the relationship between India and the China towards the West Asia. How West Asia has been an important factor for India and as well as the China, how both the nations are trying to gain the dominance or its influence in the West Asia. When we are talking about the West Asia, those are the oil producing countries, right? So OPEC countries, those are the OPEC countries, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies. Being India and the China, being the East Asia is an energy deficient countries, they have to depend upon the West Asia for the energy resources. So its influence on the other countries actually is very important. So when you talk about the alignment of India, so initially after the independence we have taken the non-alignment, right? When you talk about the non-alignment, the alignment is issue based but not ideological based, because there were two major powers after the World War, the America and the Russia. So we did not look into the ideological differences or ideological alignments, but it is an issue based. If the issue is just, we will be supporting that particular nation itself, not just because we are aligned to some other one country, we will not ideologically aligned to some country, we will not be supporting the country in all the unjust activities. So that was an issue based but not the ideological based. And for Beijing and New Delhi, one region where both contesting neighbors have employed similar versions of non-alignment thinking is in West Asia and the ethos of equitable engagement with the three poles of power. So there are three major powers in the West Asia which are playing a very crucial role in the India and as well as the China and its relationship with the other countries. Those are Saudi Arabia, Iran and Israel. These are the three countries, Iran, Israel and the Saudi Arabia. Initially India has maintained the better relationship with all the three countries, but now with Iran the relationship with India has actually strained. How it has actually strained? It has actually strained because of the secondary sanctions that were imposed by the United States of America because of the Iran nuclear deal, right? After America has withdrawn itself from the Iran nuclear deal, it has imposed sanctions on the Iran, right? So because of the sanctions, the relationship between India and Iran has actually strained, but the China has taken it as an advantage, because during that particular time there was a dispute between the trade war between the America and the China. So the China has invested so much of an amount of money into the Iran. And when it comes to UAE, the fact that United Arab Emirates obtained Chinese Wing-Loom drones in 2016, a copy of the US infamous armed MQ-9 Reaper drone that Washington refused to sell. So wherever the relationship between one country is getting strained with the other, when we talk about the global economies, the America is one of the largest economies, and the second place in the military might and the economical might goes to China. So wherever the opportunity the America loses, the China is gaining dominance in that area. In that way, the strategic weaponry is also being sold to many other countries. In that way, it is developing the diplomatic relationship with the other countries. And also we have seen that a report in September shone light on about $400 billion, a 25-year understanding between the Iran and China with the Beijing takes advantage of the US President Donald Trump's abandonment of the Iran nuclear deal. Right, immediately after the USA has been withdrawn from the nuclear deal, right? So China has invested about $400 billion into the Iran, right? In that way, it is trying to gain the dominance in the West Asian region, and also the India is also trying to ascertain its influence in the West Asian region. Okay, and this is about the article. Please go through this article. Women at the heart of recovery. Women at the heart of recovery. India has an opportunity to build climate resilient and address gender equality issues. With the COVID pandemic, so there has been many issues. It is multidimensional destruction which has happened to every country. So India is actually standing at one of the top countries which were adversely affected because of the COVID, and there are many cases that are increasing on the day-to-day basis, and we still did not have the second wave, right? So during this COVID crisis, we have seen the women inequality or the many social issues that has happened. When you talk about the social issues, the inequality has actually increased, right? Economical inequality has actually increased, and also the domestic violence against the women has also increased. So when we are recovering from the pandemic, so one option we can look for is the climate resilient India and also gender equal India. So when we bring the women into the mainstream workforce, and when we take the women serving equally as the men, then the GDP of the India can actually grow at a very rapid pace. This was about the article. So recovery is offering India two golden opportunities. One, to become the climate resilient, right? Because we are talking about the climate change. So India has to become resilient to the climate change. So the sufficient measures has to be taken, the pollution has to be curbed, greenhouse gases should not be emitted, or the ozone depleting substances should not be released, right? And India has to be resilient towards whatever the climate changes or the floodings which are happening and all the other activities. So recovery is offering India two golden opportunities. One, to build a climate resilience for the most vulnerable by ensuring that stimulus measures are green, right? It has to be eco-friendly. And two, the meaningfully address long-standing gender equality issues. It has been since thousands of years, gender inequality. So those issues has to be addressed now. And in this paragraph, you can actually see how the pandemic has extracted heavy toll on what different areas it has actually affected more. So Adivasis, migrants, formal workers, informal workers, the sexual minorities, and people with disabilities, the women, everyone were affected because of the COVID. And also we have the effects of climate change. When we are talking about the effects of the climate change, we talk about the stressed agriculture, food insecurity, unplanned urban growth, and thinning forest covers, rising temperatures, shrinking water resources. So all these are because of the climate change. So all these two issues has to be addressed now when India is taking up its space in the global economy. And this is about the vulnerable group. According to the Indian Voluntary National Review 2020, female labor force participation rate for 15-29 age group, 15 to 59 age group is showing a decline trend and standing at 25.3%. It is one of the lowest in the world. So the women workforce in India is very less. And you can see the International Monetary Fund estimated that equal participation of the women along with the men will increase the India's GDP by 27%, which is very important for us. And India government has invested nearly 22.5 billion in COVID-19 recovery. And you can see over here, the Asia Development Bank projected the India's GDP growth rate to be rebound to 8% in 2021 and 22, right? Putting women at the heart of the recovery will make it faster, just and inclusive, which is very important. So when the women comes into the mainstream workforce, so whatever the targets we want to achieve in the economical growth will be achieved much faster, and it is just and also it is inclusive. The next one, Kerala move against the CBI. Here this is very important to understand the jurisdiction of the CBI. CBI itself doesn't have any jurisdiction other than in the Delhi region. CBI itself doesn't have any jurisdiction other than in the Delhi region. So to have the jurisdiction in the other countries, to work as an independent organization in the other states, every year the state will give consent or give jurisdiction to the CBI, right? It has to approve the CBI to function in its own state. Previously, the Andhra Pradesh government has rejected the CBI, or it did not give the consent to the CBI to give the jurisdiction of its state. And now the Kerala is accusing the central government that the central government is using CBI as a weapon to destabilize the government in the non-BJP states. So the CBI was not given the approval to function in the Kerala, right? Function in the Kerala. And CBI was created by Delhi Special Police Act, because of which the jurisdiction is only in Delhi, not in any of the states, and every year the state will give the approval to the CBI to function in their state. And center promises law to check stubble burning. We already discussed about it. India is much safer against tsunami threat, right? India is much safer against the tsunami threat. Tsunami is also known as the harbor wave. Tsunami is also known as the harbor wave, and it is caused because of the tectonical activities and also because of the huge landslides. Tsunami is also regarded as the huge displacement of the water from the oceans, right? So when we are talking about the tsunami, India has experienced one of the worst disasters, the tsunami disaster previously. So to combat the tsunamis which may occur in the future, so it has established early warning system, tsunami early warning system in Indian Ocean Center for Ocean Information Services, INCOIS, right? The Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. So India has established the early warning system. And after staying ahead in the Intergovernmental Coordination Group for Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and the Mitigation System Secretariat in the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the UNESCO stationed at this is important for the static area, Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System. Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System Secretariat is in the Perth. And the stubble burning we discussed. Yeah, India to sign the Geospatial Cooperation Deal with the US in the 2+2 dialogue, we also discussed this. This is also about the stubble burning, right? So Supreme Court keeps local committee appointment in abeyance, right? So the committee to see how the stubble burning is happening, how to prevent the stubble burning. So the Supreme Court has thought of establishing a committee and to bring a law accordingly. And for that, the Supreme Court has actually said that Justice Madan B. Lokur will be heading that committee, but his appointment was kept on hold. This is important. Polio network helps scrub the COVID-19. So how? So we are talking about the vaccine that may come in 2021 and how it can actually achieve the definite target. How more people can be given the vaccine at a very faster pace. So for that, the World Health Organization has said that to curb the COVID, we can use the polio networks. The polio was also the viral infection which harms the neural system of the individual, and India has eliminated polio. It has eradicated the polio in India, right? We do not have any polio infections since the past many years. So we can use the same polio networks to curb COVID-19. And China to levy sanctions on the US companies, right? There has been the trade war between the USA and China since the past few months and since 2019, right? So what is this trade war? Whatever the trade deficit America has with the China is really huge. To combat the trade deficit, the America has actually imposed sanctions or imposed heavy duties on the Chinese goods. And to retaliate that, the China has also imposed heavy duties on the American goods. The same way the China is trying to levy sanctions on the US companies, right? And the film's target for the arms sale to the Taiwan, right? So both the China and America are trying to gain the dominance in the Asia and across the world. So to counter each other, so they are imposing the sanctions on each other. See, the China has imposed sanctions on Lockheed Martin and other US companies in past for selling weapons to Taiwan. The China has imposed sanctions on Lockheed Martin and other US companies in the past for selling weapons to the Taiwan, right? The past name of Taiwan is Formosa. The old name of Taiwan is Formosa. And OPEC hopeful fresh lockdowns will not dent energy demand. So previously, because of the lockdown which has stretched for several months, the demand for oil and the petroleum products have actually diminished, because of which West Texas International crude oil prices have actually decreased to the minus pricing. So we have seen the negative pricing of the West Texas International crude oil. And now the OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies, is hopeful that fresh lockdowns will not dent the energy demand, and the government should modify the response to another wave of the pandemic. So if there is another wave of the pandemic, because there will be usually the multiple waves, right? So after the first wave has ended, after the patients have actually decreased, and again the virus may actually attack again, and we call it a second wave. So during the second wave, instead of going to the lockdowns, so government has to take different measures to make sure the demand for the oil will not actually decrease. An interest on interest waiver to cost exchequer about 7,500 crores. Here we are talking about the moratorium that was given to the people of India by the RBI. So during the lockdown, because the economical prospects of many people have actually diminished and many people did not get the complete salary because of the COVID crisis. So the government, because the people were not able to pay the taxes back to the banks, so it has imposed moratorium. That means it has temporarily held the payment of the EMIs. But the ambiguity continued whether they have to pay the interest during the particular tenure where they have opted for the moratorium. So during the tenure, the central government, the Supreme Court of India has actually asked the RBI to clear the ambiguity whether the interest will be levied or not. If the interest is levied, the burden on the individuals will be more, burden on the people will be more. So now recently the central government has taken the decision that no interest will be levied on that. Interest on the interest will not be levied. The compound interest will not be levied during the moratorium period. So the interest on interest waiver to the cost exchequer during the moratorium period is about 7,500 crores. So this is the today's news, and tomorrow we will meet again with a fresh news. Please do like, share, subscribe and comment below. And whatever the queries you have in the news, please put down in the comments below. We will make the videos on that. Thank you. Please do like the video, and if you have any queries, please put down in the comments below, and we will be making videos on those areas. And please click on the bell icon and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.